So my first question is for you, Aaron. I read this quote online actually this week that says, "Stand in your light so people can find you." How does this ring true for Mufasa, who we see attempt to dim his light so many times in this film?
Wow, that's a beautiful quote, by the way. And I love a quote, so thank you for that. I think, Mufasa, when we meet him in the original, the 1994 original, he is, the king, and he is celebrated, he is championed, treasured, has an abundance of wisdom. Everything is together. And I think what's so beautiful about this story is that we get to learn about the journey to that point. He didn't just wake up one day in the space that he finally landed in. And I think for me, I got a lot of inspiration from that as an adult, knowing that it's not, the person on top of the mountain didn't fall there. It's about that journey and that going through those challenges and failing forward and finding moments of success and mining those moments of success. So I found a lot of inspiration from Mufasa's journey.
Yeah. And then for you, Kelvin, it's just, this is the Scar villain origin story that I feel like I never knew I needed. But what lengths did you go to maybe have those watching like empathize with this character that, we have despised or like not liked from the very beginning?
I just think it's a big heart. You know what I mean? No one is actually evil per se. They're usually just angry people that are hurt. And I think the way we perceive Scar is this really hurt older lion who it doesn't quite understand how he ended up where he was. So I was like, if we rewind and push it all the way back, I was like, well, what happened before the hurt? Where is the moment where there was hurt? And what was his personality before then? And I was like, there's a lot of joy. There's a big openness and a love for his brother and a love for his family and a love for life and excitement. And when it comes crashing down, that can shift the person. Now, whether or not they can come back or not is up to them, and a lot of support from a community. And if there's not enough community, I mean, we can get into a whole other thing as to why people end up like that. But there's a lot of light for it to come to that point.
Yeah. And then you spoke about crashing down. Tiffany, you had Scar crashing out. In this film. Okay. But we see very clearly that Sarabi has always been that girl, as far as confidence and like who she is. What are some of the things that Mufasa sees in her that you think helps her to stand in her own light?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess like, there's an interesting thing with the two of them that I feel like they're both searching for home and they like kind of find it in each other in an interesting way. And I think she has, like you said, a confidence to her, and she's very forward with him. Like she's very honest and open, and she's just like, hey, I see you. Like, that person in your life that like does not let you hide. Mm-hmm. And that's the person like you cannot get rid of. You're like, okay, you're going to make me stand in my truth and stand in the fullness of my greatness. And that's the person you need. And I think that's what she shows up for to him. And I think that's really beautiful. It's a beautiful moment when they realize that about each other.
And I think Mufasa looks to her and feels as though she has it all figured out.
Yeah.
When he so doesn't. And I think that's part of his pull to her as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank y'all so much. How's your heart today? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Happy to be here.
Amazing. So Timon is this character that brings such a air of like lightheartedness to this beloved franchise. So tell me, like, what was it like just voicing him in this installment? Like,
it's so fun. It's such a fun character. It's always fun to play a character who feels like they're being left out and is desperate to be more centered in the story, but will never be centered in the story. And of course, him and Pumbaa have a great relationship. They're best friends, but they're so close that they get to, make fun of each other a little bit. And it's great to be able to improvise and ad-lib a lot with Seth Rogen, which we do a lot. We record everything together. It's just a blast. I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, and then speaking of being left out, with this origin story of Mufasa, him and Timon's like characters have more in common than they would think, especially when it comes to like just being that outcast or being left to the side. So how do you hope that those watching like really like hone into like the power of being that person that's like maybe left out? Or
Yeah, I mean, so many of us are outsiders in different ways, you know, and I hope that the story is inspiring in that way. And it's nice to see that Mufasa wasn't just like anointed, you know, he wasn't born into a family where he would have like automatically instantly ascended. He kind of paid his dues and had to go through a lot to get there and really prove himself in terms of his courage and his integrity. And Scar struggles with that more. And I like how complicated the story is. I think Barry Jenkins did a great job of not oversimplifying it, even though it's a big family film. But you can still relate to it. So I hope people are inspired by that.
yeah, and then I want to know just how you were inspired, because I read this quote online this week that says, "Stand in your light so people can find you." And we see Mufasa really like getting to standing in his light. So talk to me about just what that means for you, like as an actor, as a creative, and like the power of like, you know, doing the thing that makes you you.
Yeah, that can be hard sometimes. You know, it takes a lot of confidence. And it sounds like a cliche, but you have to believe in yourself. We're in this era of social media where people are kind of living to drag other people down. And you have to tune that out so you can do your thing and just find the people who get you and support you. And those are really all the people that you need. You don't need everyone to like you. But it's a journey to getting to understanding that, you know? So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, and then lastly, this film introduces Blue Ivy Carter and, you know, like her learning like that origin story. So what was it? I don't know, like in terms of just hearing her voice and like stepping into that, because I was blown away.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
She's great. She's so good in it. And I just think it's cool. You know, she's obviously has a legacy of her own, like a kind of dynasty that she's part of. It's very cool. I think this is her first major role in a movie, I would imagine. So it's awesome. I'm so glad she's a part of it. And it's very exciting.
Yeah, and then just lastly, if you could just use a sentence to describe Timon in this like installment of the, you know, Lion King franchise, what would it be?
Oh, Timon is desperate to be in the movie more. And that's something I can relate to.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. And my first question is for you, Barry. This is such a legacy franchise, if you will. So how did you remain true to your work as the director of this film, while also like really shining a light on the origin story we never knew we needed?
Yeah, it was a couple things. One, the script by Jeff Nathanson just had so many themes that I felt were directly related to the themes in my work. If I described a movie to you about a young boy who's sort of caught in this biblical event with water and is separated from his parent figure, and then must go on a journey. I could be talking about Moonlight, or I could be talking about Mufasa. So it was directly related. The other thing was, when Disney approached me about this film, they literally said to me, "We want the person that made Moonlight, you know, to put their stamp on this film. You don't have to change yourself to fit into our story format. We want what you do." And so I had confidence to go through and tell the story with these characters the same way I always do.
Yeah, I love that. And then similarly, Lynn, the Lion King soundtrack is one that we as fans have loved like for ages. So, yet, like what I love about the songs in this film, it gives like just a fresh, great feel to like the story that we love. So how did you lean on Barry's filmmaking to like, you know, garner your creativity for those songs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's one of the things that appealed to me the most. One was getting to work with one of our great filmmakers in Barry Jenkins. And two, the script was so smart and so focused to the point where most of the song titles came from dialogue that was already in the script when I first received it. I always wanted a brother, tell me it's you. Those were all things the characters just said to each other. And I said, I think I can work with that. I think that sings. And so that was a really fun part of the process, was discovering their voices, learning who Mufasa and Scar were before we knew them. And again, I feel really empowered by how big The Lion King is in our global. Instead of thinking of that as intimidating, it's actually freeing, because it's not just that movie. There's the Broadway musical, there's the incredible sequels, and if you haven't seen Lion King 1.5, it's very slept on. But also, you know, Beyonce's work on the 2019 movie, the song Spirit, and her whole album, The Gift, I felt like expanded the space of what a Lion King song could be, and gave me a lot of space to play as a musician.
Yeah, and then, you know, I love the brother song, by the way. Like, I can't wait to sing it to my brother, who's very much an adult man. But I read something online this week that said, stand in your light so people can find you. And I felt like that really, like, resonates with this story with Mufasa. So for both of you, starting with you, Barry, how, like, now that fans are about to experience this body of work, how has it changed just like your confidence and your approach to standing in your light as far as creativity? Like,
You know, it's interesting. I haven't really thought of that. You know, I do think there's some things about this film and about this character Mufasa that I directly relate to. And you're right, his journey in the film, I'm thinking of Tell Me It's You, and the line that says before that, his destiny was to save you, now tell me it's you, because he almost refuses to stand in his light. And so maybe it's interesting going through this journey, because one, I knew nothing about this technology. It was like learning a new language, and I wasn't sure I could do it, but the more I did it, the more I did it. And so maybe I do need to stand in my light a bit more. I'm going to take that from you and run with it.
It's so funny you say that, because the most haunting part of the original film for me is the music when Simba finally ascends Pride Rock. That da, da, da. And that's actually the only line of the original score by Hans Zimmer that I quoted in any of the music. It's the first time we see Mufasa alone, and I always wanted a brother. I allowed myself one sample of just, you hear those 5 notes, because just as his son would do in the 1994 film, it's Mufasa learning to there's so much power when you bring all of yourself to a room. I think we sometimes make ourselves adaptable to the rooms we have to be into on any given day. But the power of bringing all of yourself into a room is really, I think, what Mufasa learns about. And I think is a lot about what growing up is.
yeah, I love that. Well, congratulations.